Hi and a warm welcome to Speech Therapy Totos membership site. I might refer to it hereafter as STTOTS because it has a nice ring to it. I applaud your decision to join this membership site, the online training school. It is clear that you value your own learning as a critical prerequisite to offering your child or your student with evidence-based input or therapy. I am Lorna Muthamia Ochido, the founder and director of Hearsay and Read Clinic, which is a physical clinic space in Nairobi, Kenya, and Speech Therapy Totos, which is an online presence of the clinic, I suppose. So online, meaning there's no physical presence, but always serving parents and families. And I am personally a speech and language therapist or pathologist with over 15 years of experience, practicing experience. I completed my undergraduate studies at the University of Canterbury in Christchurch, New Zealand, and later began my practice in Melbourne, Australia, before relocating to an underserved country, that is Kenya, which also happens to be my homeland, in 2010. I'm also pursuing my doctorate studies at La Trobe University, which is in Melbourne, Australia, and my topic of study is literacy instruction in early grade classrooms, knowledge, phonological backgrounds, and self-rated confidence of teachers in public schools in Nairobi, Kenya. So I'll keep you posted on the findings and implications. So I may decide to share more about that process of conducting research. So stay tuned. I know it's going to be one of the topics as well. For now though, my areas of specialization as a speech and language therapist include early intervention, literacy. So early intervention is the early years, 0 to 3, 5 as well, is to 5, so 0 to 5 as well by extension. Literacy acquisition, cleft speech therapy, so that is cleft palate speech therapy. Articulation or pronunciation, stuttering or stammering, and oral habilitation. Underserved countries are those which do not have anywhere near the required number of a particular profession or even the awareness of what that profession does. So in my context, Kenya is an underserved country for speech therapy. Having something like 10 qualified speech therapists for a population of 50+ million qualifies Kenya as an underserved country. When I set up my practice back in 2010, I became immediately appreciative of the many luxuries I enjoyed as a speech pathologist in Melbourne. For starters, my very first year of practice after university, that was in Melbourne, was a kind of a hand-holding, affair or experience, as the systems there actually prepare new graduates for the scope of work with a realization that studying and working are two very different activities. So I recall the Department of Education in both New Zealand and Australia, they extend a new graduate program to new graduates, which involves, a reduced caseload and supervision for the, entire first year of practice. So you never have new graduates opening up private practices because it goes without saying that there is so much still that they need to learn after going through the rigors of a training program. So a new graduate still has to go through a lot more hands-on learning. Those luxuries, unfortunately, are not on the menu for graduates in underserved countries. Not to mention, some of the underserved countries in Africa don't yet have schemes of services or recognition for this profession, even after universities create speech therapy courses and graduate cohorts. So graduates are forced to create their own employment and therefore rules. Those wishing to access continued education find themselves with limited or extremely expensive options that involve attending professional development opportunities that are most likely not even within the continent most times. Having offered internship to a number of speech therapy students from a local university program, I know firsthand that not having systems in place to ensure graduates access at least 1 year of supervised employment will not only hurt their practices, but also the quality of service that they provide those that seek them. I have always maintained that a creative approach to solving the many problems that face us as a country or a continent is not only what is needed, but indeed the only choice that we do have. As you may be aware, in order to work around the severe shortage of speech therapists in Kenya, where I practice, and to guard against the burnout that I was beginning to experience during my early practice days in Kenya, I started to train speech therapist assistants. A lot of the work we do as speech therapists can actually be done with anyone else, including parents, as long as they receive some level of training. In addition, most of the work we do in therapy, particularly with clients who are severely delayed, requires multiple practices of targets for those targets to then be consolidated. It therefore made more sense for me to train someone who could assist me in getting my clients to practice while I attended to other clients. The clients had to master those targets before we could move on to other targets anyway. Training willing and passionate people to be my assistants proved vital in many respects. I avoided burnout, I could offer my services to increasingly more people, and I started to teach what I knew to others. I stand by the motto, we should always teach everything we know. This may appear challenging for many, and if any of you have read my story of what it's been like practicing in Kenya, then you know that I, of all people, know that sharing your skills with others can both be a positive and unfortunately as well a negative. I firmly believe teaching what you know, empowering others, although it does come at a cost, we can all make it work for all concerned. All you need is some creativity. I think creativity is the solution to everything. So some creativity for you as a teacher, so that you're not left feeling drained and, used or misused. Besides, if you are working with an assistant, for example, and you care about your client's outcomes, training is not just a choice, it is necessary. It is a necessity. What you'll find on this site is a collection of all the training courses I have my speech therapist assistants undergo. So what you'll find on this site is a collection of the training courses that I have my speech therapist assistants and some teachers and shadow teachers go through. The courses contain well-researched techniques and information presented in an easy-to-grasp format for use with qualified speech therapists wishing to refresh their knowledge in a particular area or gain new skills in areas not before specialized on, as well as paraprofessionals working in underserved regions where there may not even be any practicing speech therapists. Speech therapists working with speech therapist assistants can also choose to have this become the basis of training for their speech therapist assistants. I also hope that teachers, be it classroom teachers or homeschool teachers or shadow teachers or learning support teachers, can also access this training in order to familiarize themselves with any of the areas covered in this online training school that will help them offer better targeted intervention for their students with learning needs. And not just students with learning needs, as a training on language therapy, for example, gives you a comprehensive breakdown of what to expect at different stages of a child's language development and formulate individualized vocabulary building targets for a child at any stage. In addition, the reading or literacy therapy, provides teachers of reading and writing the skills that they need to deliver evidence-based reading instruction or intervention that is sure to drastically improve your child's or any student's reading skills. I talk about and I teach about phonological awareness approach to teaching reading, which is well researched and which research has gone on as far as to show that 20 hours of phonological awareness intervention is capable of resolving any child's reading difficulties. Imagine that. Can you imagine there's a research proven way of ensuring that children learn how to read successfully, painlessly, and you too can learn how you can use it to get your students reading in no time at all. Whether they are struggling with reading or they are not reading yet, there are activities you can use with children who are at various stages of their reading journey. Last but certainly not least, this site is also for the parent who has the time and the inclination to want to learn it all, in order to improve their own child's communication outcomes or be in the know, A parent who chooses to enroll into this site will be armed with the knowledge to keep up with their child's speech therapy, reading instruction, and to participate in goal setting that ensures expedited growth for their children. or for their child. I hope you will find the sequence of courses contained inside each main topic sufficient to grow your skill set for that particular topic. I will include further reading because there is no such thing as enough knowledge. So this is definitely not exhaustive. There is also a miscellaneous tab which contains useful videos and information on related topics that I feel will also be a good addition. My vision is to have courses for the following topics. So language therapy, cleft speech therapy, articulation, autism spectrum disorders, stuttering or stammering, literacy or reading, writing, oral rehabilitation, developmental verbal dyspraxia, auditory processing disorders, introduction to audiology, therapy post-stroke for adults, clinical practice and assessments, standardized assessment and assessment tools, and miscellaneous topics. And I really hope that this list is going to grow. For the topic not within my area of expertise, I will co-present the lectures with identified experts in the industry. There are topics like dysphagia, tracheostomy management, voice disorders, etc. Finally, in order for there to be a way to self-evaluate one's own learning, to gauge, one's own mastery, which I feel is important, each main topic includes various pre-tests and a final examination. There will also be certification for anyone wishing to get a certificate, certifying that you have completed a particular course from us and are therefore competent to deliver therapy in that particular area. Those wishing to obtain a certificate will need to apply to take the exam, pay some amount, do the exam, and once we mark and you have achieved a minimum of 70%, which is what we are putting as a minimum for all the courses, then we'll then be able to issue a certificate, you with a certificate. You will also be eligible to resit an exam up to, I think up to 2 or 3 times for a certificate to be issued, but not more than that. I welcome you to the site and I wish you great learning and I wish you all the best with your application of the newly acquired knowledge. Your presence here means a world to me and I am rooting for you.